So I hop on my PS5 today and I see that Life is Strange Double Exposure Deluxe Edition is 30% off. Now, if that strikes you as a bit surprising, you're not alone in that fact, because the game was only released back in October. And this just spells out even more trouble for Deck9, the developer of the Life is Strange series, or at least the current developer of the Life is Strange series, as a whole wealth of troubles are coming into light here, including not the first, but the second round of layoffs that were just officially announced right now. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what's going on with the Life is Strange franchise, especially in its current cycle being in the hands of developers Deck9, who seem to have extremely fumbled the ball real hard, friends, which is now leaving the future of the franchise in serious free fall. On December 6th, Deck9 released this statement. Today, we are sad to share the news that we must say goodbye to some of our talented team members. This was an extremely difficult decision and reflects the challenging times many companies in our industry are currently facing. We are extremely grateful to every individual who has dedicated their hard work, passion, and commitment, and blah, 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 blah. To those of you leaving the studio, thank you for sharing your talent with us. We're so proud, blah, 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 blah. To the community, we ask for your support and understanding during this difficult time. Mark Lyons, CEO, Deck9 Games. Okay, so here's the thing. People have been wanting a direct sequel to the first Life is Strange game for a really long time. And there are rumors going back as much as 2, 3, possibly even 4 years about Deck9 wanting to explore that territory. And as we can now see, there were rumors posted as far back as 2 years ago on the Reddit that actually leaked plot details about Double Exposure. And I myself remember reading these rumors 2 years ago and being super excited because I love this franchise and there was no news if they were going to make a new game after True Colors. So to hear not only that they were making a new game, but that it would be bringing back Max Caulfield was amazing. However, sometimes when we look back through the past, we look back at the past through rose-colored glasses, because now I reread this post and there's a real important key part of it that I guess I just really mentally glossed over. So let's take a look at that for 1 second, because this is pretty important to the state of not only the franchise, but specifically the game, Double Exposure, which we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about it today. Okay, so here is a 2-year-old Reddit post that was posted to the subreddit Gaming Leaks and Rumors. It's titled Potential Life is Strange 4 Rumor. And here's how it goes. I have no real proof that this source is reliable, so just assume there's a 99% chance that this is bullshit. But I heard from someone that's tested the game that Life is Strange is coming and Max will once again be the main character. Apparently, she is a professor at an art school and her powers have been upgraded so that she can travel to alternate realities and use that to solve mysteries. It also follows the choices you made in the first game, and Chloe can make an appearance if you kept her alive. Story spoiler. The basis of the story is that she's investigating the murder of a friend/student of hers. She steps between realities and ends up finding her friend alive in the alternate timeline and uses that to solve the murder. There will apparently be other people with powers in the game as well. Oh, I don't even remember reading that part. And then listen, this is the important bit. Listen to this. The poster also said, the first half of the game is supposed to be amazing, but not the second half. Hopefully, they'll fix it before release, though. As a Life is Strange fan, I think this could be awesome, but only time will tell if any of this ends up being real. Okay, so first off, 100% of that turned out to be true. Whoever it was that posted this leak clearly did play the game in early development, and literally everything that they said ended up being right down to the part that says there will apparently be other powered people in this game. Because for anyone who's played the game, we now know that Sophie is a powered person, and apparently so is Diamond. according to a post-credits scene that I legitimately do not understand. But the really important part here, other than the fact that this person was 100% right, they said all of this 2 years ago. The game was only announced this spring, but here's the bit that, I don't know, rose-colored glasses / nostalgia-baited Kyle completely overread or maybe just didn't take in mentally at all. The first half of the game is supposed to be amazing, but not the second half. And for anyone who's played Double Exposure, you know that also turned out to be 110% true. When I started the game, I was a little apprehensive. I thought the first chapter felt maybe a little slow to get itself off the ground, but then the first major twist at the end of episode 1 really got me. The twist at the end of episode 2 really got me, and I was hooked. But then episodes 4 and 5, which were strangely short, were, among other things, downright confounding. I literally cannot tell you exactly what happened at the end of this game, but I can tell you that it feels some level of rushed and difficult to understand. It felt like the game started off at a really nice, slow pace, and then it picked up the pace, and it started moving in a really nice upwards trajectory, good fast motion, and then all of a sudden, breakneck speeds of story development, lots of exposition, and then just wrapping up the story with, okay, and now both timelines exist in the same space, and Max just tells people that. Oh, and then also Safi is going to go out there to try and find other powered people, and hey, Diamond is a powered person too, so I guess now we're going into some sort of like an X-Men Professor X and Magneto-like territory, which is absolutely not where I ever expected the Life is Strange franchise to end up. Somewhere I actually never really wanted it to end up. I always thought that the beauty of the franchise was small, intimate stories with a supernatural twist and not an X-Men-like universe where it's powered people fighting non-powered people or people with powers fighting each other. It's really not where I wanted things to go. But here's the thing. The reception to this game has not been great. It has been, without a doubt, the most divisive game in the whole franchise, and I am right there with y'all. I legitimately cannot decide how I feel about this damn game, but let me tell you something. I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I played it when it first came out. But also the news that is coming out now is only continuing to sour and further affect my opinion, because there are some things coming to light with Deck 9, the game's current developer, that I did not know. And the first thing that I did not know was that Deck 9 started cutting staff and, from what I understand, funding of Life is Strange Double Exposure in the midst of its development. While this game was being developed, Deck 9 started cutting staff. There was a round of layoffs earlier this year in which Deck 9 fired something like 20% of its staff people. And that's really not good, because a lot of those people were apparently working on Double Exposure. Now, here's the really heartbreaking part. Here's something that I didn't know. And now that I understand this, suddenly things make so much sense about how this game just stopped making sense about halfway through. How it really feels like they were working on the game in a linear fashion, and then somewhere around the halfway point, IQs just dropped sharply and creativity and sense making went straight out the door. So, right after the game was released, both the creative director of the game as well as the narrative director were let go. And with the whole new round of layoffs happening right now, which, by the way, what a cruel time to announce all these layoffs less than 2 months after the release of the game and less than 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas. That's awful. And that speaks so much trouble for Deck 9. Apparently, as a company, Deck 9 is doing very, very poorly. So this whole double round of layoffs is Deck 9 basically trying to, I guess, recoup, recover, restructure, as I'm sure any company says when they fire people. But when we look at everything all together, this is spelling a big 4-letter word for the Life is Strange franchise. And I just can't lie, y'all. It's got me bummed. I love this franchise so much. I really do. I would for sure say that this is my favorite video game franchise. It was the first Life is Strange was the first time I ever played a video game that made me realize, oh, video games can be this. We can have emotionally driven, story-driven video games that don't have any shooting mechanics, that aren't about going from point A to point B to point C, blowing up this location, shooting that location, infiltrating this hideout, doing stealth, blah, 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 shooting everybody, stabbing everybody with swords, blah, 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 power up the sword, yada, yada, yada. Instead, we got this really beautiful, intimate, fairly pared down real story where your power is basically in conversation. It touches on sociology, psychology, morality, things like that I just loved. But of course, with just a little bit, or, depending on the game, sometimes a lot of that supernatural twist. And that's what made the game fucking unforgettable. So I was hype, y'all. I was so hype when they announced this follow-up. I did find it a little surprising that they announced this follow-up so short before its release date. And I did really start to notice in the months preceding the release that there was sort of an odd lack of ceremony about this game. There was kind of an odd lack of marketing. When they announced True Colors, I was there. I was following all of it. That release trailer got me so hard. That release trailer alone had 3 songs in it, one of which was an original that's in the credits. They did a ton of press. They did mass interviews with all the cast. And then they also put out a press release that announced which artists would be in the soundtrack. And that game had big gets like MXM Tune and Phoebe fucking Bridgers. So of course they were going to make a press release about that and let everybody know that among other artists, Life is Strange True Colors would have a Phoebe fucking Bridgers song in it. And I actually still can't get over how impressive it is that they did that. And they used one of my favorite songs by her, and in such a beautiful way. And I'm going slightly off topic, but it's also relevant because Double Exposure did not do a press statement for the new game. They did not do an official press statement where they talked about the soundtrack and they listed off what artists would be included. And I found that hinky. Everybody knows that one of the big things about this franchise is the musicians that they get and the songs that they play throughout. It is an integral part of the franchise. It's one of the things that makes it unique. It's one of the things that they always put time and energy in. Life is Strange 2 notwithstanding, I did briefly touch upon this in my review of True Colors, that Life is Strange 2 was made in a severely under budgeted manner, at least from what I can put together. And they just really didn't, they weren't really able to get a lot of rights, or there wasn't a ton of original music in the second one, but True Colors overcorrected that in an absolutely lovely way. So I could see before Double Exposure came out that there didn't seem to be the same level of marketing and time and love and attention being put into the promotion of this game. Something felt a little off, considering that this is the game that is the only direct sequel to Game 1, and that this game brings back Max Caulfield as the main character, which is a huge revelation for this series and a big moment because it also makes it the only Life is Strange game to in some way be a direct sequel to a previous game. And it's not just a sequel to any game, it's a sequel to the first. And that is fascinating. And that is something people have been asking for probably more than anything in terms of what can be brought to a new Life is Strange game. So I did find a little weird that they seemed to be somewhat under promoting it. Second to that, we need to talk about this deluxe edition pre-release early access thing that Deck 9 set up because A, it was the cash grab to end all cash grabs for a game developer. And of course, I absolutely fell into that trap for a few reasons. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, the pre-order for the games included one version called the Ultimate Deluxe version, or whatever you want to effing call it, where basically this version would give you a few more cosmetics. Blah, who cares? Like literally, who cares about a different costume? Oh, look, you can make her be dressed up as a zombie for the whole game. Yeah, that's tonally appropriate and definitely something we want, sure. But no. The real cash grab-iness of it all with the deluxe edition is that the deluxe edition allowed you to play episodes 1 and 2 of Double Exposure 2 weeks before the game's full release. And I did, and I fell for it, and I fell for it, and I fell for it, and I did it, and I bought it, and I bought it, and I did it, and I fell for it, and it happened. It happened to me, and it can happen to you too, if you're a sucker like I am. Anyways, here's the thing. I don't have a ton. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna come on the internet and lie. I don't have a ton going on in my life right now, and I love. Life is strange. So when you're telling me that you gotta spend a little bit of extra money and then you can play the first 2 games early, well, that's just proof that Deck 9 really got me by the balls on that one, because of course I was gonna do it. And the main driver, I would say, for why I did it was these are games with a lot of twists and turns, and it really undercuts the enjoyment of the game when it gets spoiled for you before you play it. And me being big on Tumblr and Life is Strange Reddit and I don't know, crap like that, I just wasn't willing to have the first 2 episodes all kinds of spoiled and messed up for me. And then when I finally play it on release day, elements of it are already too familiar to me, or the spoilers have just ruined the element of surprise, and then I'll always wonder if I would have really enjoyed that twist, or how it would have actually made me feel in the moment discovering it as a player via discovering it online by accident. And that's exactly what Deck 9 was counting on, and that's exactly why suckers like me went for it. And I did, and I went for it, and I invited my bestie over, and I played the first episode, and it was weird. Right from the get-go, I had unusual, or you might say strange, feelings about playing this game because, well, as it would come to be pretty evident in major parts of the game, particularly the beginning and particularly the end, there seemed to be just a certain lack of ness with this game, a lack of Life is Strangeness, a lack of importantness, a lack of time and care and loveness. No, really, the term that I would use is a certain lack of ceremony that the beginning of a game, especially one that is a direct sequel to its most beloved entry, I would argue, as well as bringing back the main character that started this all, I felt that unlike the other games, which had nice, smooth, really intriguing openers, this one just kind of dropped you in. No ceremony or specialness about it at all. It was just like picture goes up and now you're Max taking photos in an abandoned warehouse, and now you're here with your best friend, and now you're talking about how you work at a school, and then you go to the school and then you do some school stuff. And it felt odd. I also do wonder quite a bit if this game was actually made, like if they did the voiceover recording and everything in linear order, because I really, really do feel, and my bestie that I was playing it with also strongly felt that Hannah Tell's voice acting was egregiously, let's put it, rusty in episode 1. There was a very forced nature of the way that Max talked, and I get that they were trying to go for, this is a smoother, cooler version of Max. This is a version of Max that has her head on straight and she's like more confident and stuff. But she also sounded like she was seriously fronting. Like she sounded like a very insecure person trying to come off as very secure. And listen, I absolutely love, this is not a knock against Hannah Tell. I cannot sing my praises enough for everyone involved in this game, except the actual, like, you know, let's say like the CEO and the people ultimately at the more corporate shareholdery end of this. I think Hannah Tell did a beautiful job overall. And I will say that as soon as episode 2 started, Hannah's acting felt smooth and natural and really, really endearing. I also absolutely love the way that Max is animated in this game. Her micro expressions are absolutely on point and they really complement Hannah Tell's acting. But episode 1 is something to be desired. It felt slow, sludgy, lacked intrigue, lacked ceremony and specialness, didn't really place the importance of returning to this franchise and how much you'd really have to pack into the very start there to get people on board. Because I will say, as someone who absolutely loves this series, and I also do have a lot of patience, especially for video games. I know everyone makes that joke that video games, like the first 3 hours are now like the prologue intro tutorial. And that is kind of true for open worlds, although I honestly don't mind it as long as it feels earned and I am not bored out of my damn skull. Episode 1, though, tested me. It tested me in ways that made me feel feelings about the game that I had never felt in the first episode of A Life is Strange game. Now that I know that Deck 9 fired 20% of their staff while making this game, now that I know that they fired the game director and the narrative director right after the game's release, now that I look back on this Reddit rumor post from someone who apparently had their hands on the game 2 fucking years ago and said the first half is great, but the second half isn't. Hopefully they'll change this with time. When I know all that and I look at all of this together, I'm like, oh, and then also adding the fact that I truly feel when I played episode 1 that the voice acting was absolutely at its worst and that it strongly picked up in episode 2, which gives me the feeling all of this together. When I put all of these things together, I literally feel like Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the giant board. And I'm like connecting all the dots and all the lines and all the papers. And I'm like, guys, they made the game. They literally developed and made the game in linear order. And around the halfway point, everything just died on the vine. Around the halfway point, they lost a bunch of their staff, which demoralized everybody involved in their game. It seems like the budget for the game got cut. And because the narrative director and the game director were let go shortly after the release, I'm going to assume the sales weren't great either. And then, of course, another massive round of layoffs right now, as they're also announcing the game is 30% off on the PlayStation Store, which is just wild. It's clear that Deck 9 is working really hard to try and recoup their losses, but the cards on the table are what they are, and Deck 9 does not have a good hand. The ending of Double Exposure has a credit roll that says Max Caulfield will return, which is a very MCU way of closing out the game. And I gotta tell you, when that came on screen, I was not inherently elated. I was just confused. Y'all's the second half of the game is really confusing. Somehow the 2 different timelines get fused, so now everybody has double memories. There's supposed to be a big choice at the end of the game. Every game ends with a major choice, and this game is so convoluted. I'm not even 100% sure what that giant choice is, but it was something along the lines of agree with Safi or don't agree with Safi. Like, take her side or don't take her side. Be happy with her or be dissatisfied with her. Let her go or like try and hold her accountable for her crimes. Y'all, I can't remember. It was so convoluted. But all I know is no matter which version you choose, Safi ends up running off, and then you go back to the school bar to basically try and explain to your main core cast why they all have double memories, and how somehow two different universes are now one universe, and God knows what that means for the people who got left out. Like that cop who was investigating them, and then he accidentally touched an alternate version of himself, and both versions fried up into the sky. Where the fuck is that guy? Is that guy just cosmically dead now? He just never existed? There were two different universes, and now he exists in neither? And if he had just got to hang on a little longer until these two universes merged, he totally would have been okay. I guess that guy's just cannon fodder for the plot, which is uncharacteristically heartless and thoughtless for a franchise that is usually so involved in the minutia of these little things. Even the side characters, we can't just let them fall by the wayside in service of a larger plot. But oh boy, did Double Exposure do that. Double Exposure, it's a hard to love game, even though it really does try and even succeed here and there. But it really feels like there is this shift somewhere around the halfway point, or maybe even just in the last two episodes, where suddenly we got this feeling of, okay, everybody, it's time to wrap this thing up. Let's get this bitch, all folded up and good to go and send it out there. And it's got to go out there, and it's got to end with Max Caulfield will return. And it's okay if we fumbled the end of this, because there's going to be another one. And then in the next one, we'll get to fix all those things, and we'll get to explain all those things, and it'll be even better. It'll be great. And Max Caulfield will return. Max Caulfield will return. Max Caulfield will return. But will she, though? No, for real. Y'all, listen. Looking at the writing on the wall, and nobody wants to be saying this less than me. But with the way that Don't Nod has completely mishandled the IP of Life is Strange as a franchise, with the fact that this game fired its narrative and creative director immediately after its release, and the fact that the game is 30% on sale less than 2 months after its release, it's not spelling good news for the future of Life is Strange. And the thing is, the creative and the narrative director, from what I am understanding, were the people who knew what it meant when it said Max Caulfield will return. So the planned future for this franchise is now completely up in the air, and I just don't think I like to be optimistic about things, but really looking at what's going on here, I don't think Max Caulfield will return. I think that the best case scenario moving forward is maybe if Don't Nod can get their hands back on the franchise and become the main developers again. All I know is Deck 9 has taken something that I love, and they have essentially shaken it so hard that it has shaken franchise syndrome. And I don't know if you can really recover from that, especially when, after looking at their shaken franchise, they went, might as well discount it, put it on the freaking 30% off end cap, and just hope that it sells enough to keep our company from going under. I don't know if it will, though. They laid off 20% of their staff sometime this year, and then an unknown number of people right now, right before the holidays, which honestly, them laying people off and then 2 weeks later making the game 30% off, when, keep in mind, this game came out 2 months ago, that's got to feel so shitty for the people involved. I feel so bad for them. I feel so many feelings. About this, and it doesn't make me feel great. But I think looking at the writing on the wall, it spells out doom. I don't think the Life is Strange franchise is in good standing. I don't think the game sold very well. I think it massively underperformed. I think fans are really upset. I think it's very hard for there to be any kind of agreeable consensus on this game. And it's not just because of the price field nonsense. It's because the game is kind of half awesome, half crap. And the game has some of the best twists and the best revelations, and also the best animation of the whole franchise. And it's got a couple needle drops that are pretty great. But then it's also got the most confusing ending ever. It's got a really rushed third act. It is levels of convoluted and overly involved and overly complicated, while also having the most annoyingly simple, tidy wrap up. I'm left so confuzzled, y'all. I'm so confuzzled. I am using the word confuzzled, which I have not heard myself or any other human utter since like 2007. That is what Deck 9 has done to me. Look what they done to me. Look what they done to my poor, beautiful boy. And by poor, beautiful boy, I'm talking about a franchise that helped shape me as a young adult and helped get me through some serious effing times, y'all. And honestly, on a more personal note, I was really looking forward to Double Exposure because it would have been timely to experience a game with that kind of emotional nuance and honesty and strong closing finish that reminds me why humans are beautiful and why I love this world so much. Now, I'm not saying this game ended on a note that makes me suddenly want to write a manifesto. I'm not. Don't worry. I'm fundamentally lazy. I would never do anything like that. This is as close. This rant is as close as we're going to get to that. And basically the finality of it is not that we need to storm any offices or dox any peoples or anything. It's just that I am tired. I am so tired. And they really effed up on this one. They really fucked the pooch, y'all. I don't know what comes next. I hope it's something good. All I know is as long as Deck 9 is at the helm, it is dark, non-optimistic times looking forward for the future of Life is Strange. And that just makes me so sad because this franchise has always been a very rare, beautiful, bright, optimistic spot on an otherwise very volatile industry and, story space. So I guess we'll see what happens next. I'll make sure to keep you all in the loop. And this is the part where I gotta do the call to action thing, but also legitimately, I am so eager to know your guys' thoughts so badly. I have been reading Reddit posts. I've been reading Metacritic reviews. I've been reading YouTube reviews. I've been looking at the Reddits. And there's just the answers. First of all, there's no answers to the convoluted what exactly happened in the end. No one seems to have any consensus on that, which to me only confirms how confusing this game is. But also, what did you think? What did you think? Give me your full, unabridged thoughts. Did you love this game? Did you despise this game? Were you like me, where you're just so confused afterwards? You don't really know how you feel about the game. Do you also feel that some parts were incredible, but other parts were so confounding that it's impossible for you to have one solid take? Let me know your thoughts, please. All right, I love you. Goodbye.